The Justice Files. The Justice Files. The Justice Files. The Justice Files. You got no damn right. The Justice Files.
Disclaimer. The information in this video is not meant as legal advice and is not meant to harass anyone, but is an attempt to make a lawful private arrest according to the rule of law. And during a time of secret societies and widespread official corruption. Some of the evidence presented is done under fair use that permits the use of copyrighted and other material to achieve a public benefit. I, Randy Lehoux, will continue hearing witness testimony in my internationally recognized common law court of record organized under the law of nations. I, Randy Lehoux, understand that I am still sworn to my oath of truth as I continue providing statements and information in this matter that seeks to effect a lawful arrest as part of a continuing common law fresh pursuit of known violators. Joinder. The case, Cockpit Cafe versus City of Sanford et al., is joined by another case, State of Maine versus Donald Lehoux, by virtue of a theory that retaliation was directed against me, Randy Lehoux, that forced the closure of the Cockpit Cafe, my employer, and occurred because I helped Donald Lehoux expose judicial and other corruption within the state of Maine while violating the rule of law. The joining event was retaliation that occurred on December 20th, 2014, when one case of unmarked eggs mysteriously appeared in the walk-in cooler of the Cockpit Cafe. There were no tags or labels identifying who delivered the eggs, and they were not in the walk-in cooler when the cooks left on December 19th, 2014, or when owner Renee Bernier opened the walk-in during the afternoon on December 19th, 2014.
Whoa! How we doing?
I don't know if they're spy eggs or not.
I don't know what they are. They just appeared out of nowhere.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It pissed off a lot of people, so I don't know if the spies dropped them off and wanted us to kill
Yeah,
people.
but still, you know what I mean? It's like, what the hell? How did they get in here?
Well,
without breaking anything?
Well, that's the same thing. Don said he always makes his bed. Somebody came in and the bed was messed up. He lived in a cave, you know, so...
Need butter?
Somebody did it.
Somebody.
That's right. Where did these come from?
Exactly. They weren't here yesterday.
So who put those eggs in that walk-in cooler and why? How did they get past the locked walk-in door? I now believe that the motive for the mystery egg assault was to threaten me or my employer and significant other, Renee Bernier, owner of the Cockpit Cafe, as a means of preventing me from helping my cousin Donald Lehoux in his defense in 4 separate criminal complaints titled State of Maine versus Donald Lehoux, involving a motor vehicle charge of operating while licensed, suspended, or revoked. The message seemed to be one of, we can get you anytime and where it hurts, so back off. My function as clerk to the sovereign, Donald Lehoux, was to examine the evidence and the law and prepare the documents for filing and maintaining records. I believe it was sometime in September 2014 when my cousin, Donald Lehoux, told me that he was facing criminal court action for not having a driver's license and asked me to help him better understand the law because he believed that his right to travel was being infringed by the licensing scheme. It was around this time when I received from the Maine Secretary of State's office a notice that my own driver's license was to expire on my birthday, November 6th. I didn't want to break the law or blindly surrender my rights, so on September 14th, 2014, I emailed a few questions to the Maine Secretary of State, Matthew Dunlap. I also sent a copy to Maine Governor Paul R. LePage and Maine Attorney General Janet T. Mills, now current governor of the state of Maine, asking for, quote, an official interpretation of the public officer or body charged by law with the responsibility for interpretation, administration, or enforcement of the statute defining the crime, unquote. Not one of the people that I emailed replied to my concerns. And no answer means that no one is contesting my analysis and interpretation of the law. I also believe that the motive for the threatening mystery egg assault was because Maine Superior Court Justice Paul A. Fritzsche was removed from Donald Lehoux's second trial after we both filed criminal complaints against him for witness tampering at the Springvale District Court and for records and witness tampering with the Maine District Attorney's Office through regular filings on the case. I believe that it was because of the criminal complaint that we filed against Justice Fritzsche that on or around October 5th, 2015, Governor Paul R. LePage nominated Fritzsche to move to active retired status rather than charging him with the demonstrated crimes that included the withholding of exculpatory evidence that would have cleared Donald Lehoux of the charges. Doing so would have prevented Donald Lehoux from being assaulted and battered by the Sanford Police Department's officers on April 15th, 2015. The point is, there are players from City of Sanford who know other players who during the time frame of September 14th, 2014 to December 20th, 2014 were working at the Maine Superior Court in Alfred. For example, the Sanford Airport manager hired in June 2013 had the opportunity to place the mystery eggs in the walk-in refrigerator as she was in possession of a key to the Cockpit Cafe that would have given her access to the key for the walk-in refrigerator. The connection between the City of Sanford to the Alfred courthouse and Donald Lehoux's case is Maine District Attorney Raphael Silver, who was a member of the Sanford School Committee during that same time frame. And I personally saw him participate in publicly televised school committee meetings, and I also saw him walk past me in the hallway of the Alfred, Maine Superior Court building during this time period. Another connection could have been made to the Sanford officials when on or around September 19th, 2014, I emailed a few more questions to Maine Governor Paul R. LePage and sent copies to Maine State Representative from Sanford, Andrea M. Boland, and Maine State Senator John L. Tuttle Jr., also from Sanford, and I also included the original email that I had sent to Governor LePage. Still, however, no one replied. On October 8, 2014, Donald Lehoux and I attended a disposition conference at the Maine Superior Court in Alfred with Paul A. Fritzsche. I had provided Donald Lehoux with questions to ask Justice Fritzsche. But while Donald Lehoux was questioning him, in an abrupt fashion, he refused to answer any more questions and scheduled the case for trial. On October 21, 2014, Donald Lehoux filed his law of the case, and that included his certificate and order to vacate the documents in the matter of State of Maine versus Donald Lehoux, this first and second trial. No reply, however, was given by the court. In fear for his safety, on November 12th, Donald Lehoux attended a jury trial before Justice Fritzsche, in which I was scheduled to testify as a witness. And in that trial, he was convicted. Later on, it was discovered that the court's records had been tampered with, and some 56 minutes of trial transcripts were missing from the record. Those missing records included Fritzsche's answers to the main question I asked Governor LePage. Fritzsche's answer was false, and that testimony would have proved an affirmative defense for Donald Lehoux, but is missing. That's evidence of a crime being committed by the court. In fear for his safety, on November 13th, 2014, I sent another email to Maine Governor Paul R. LePage and expanded on my original email. His office sent a reply that read in part, quote, "Depending on the nature of your issue, your message may be assigned to one of my designees for direct follow-up with you. My staff and I are committed to providing you with a timely response to your issues and concern," unquote. Once again, however, in violation of the law, no answers were given in the nature of an official interpretation of the public officer or body charged by law with responsibility for the interpretation, administration, or enforcement of the statute defining the crime, coming under the title of ignorance or mistake. In fear for our safety, on 11/18/2014, Donald Lehoux and I each filed separate protection from abuse orders against Judge Fritzsche. A recorded meeting was held with a judge at the Springvale, Maine District Court that satisfied our immediate needs, and both complaints were canceled. On November 19th, 2014, Donald Lehoux, in his first trial, filed with the Superior Court his writ of magna accisa allegianda in idonius homo, decreeing his wish to postpone the second trial until the sheriff was notified, in hopes of having the complaint investigated and to prevent further obstruction of justice against Donald Lehoux by the state of Maine and its agent provocateurs. With that intention, on November 19, 2014, Donald Lehoux sent certified mail restricted delivery his decreed wish to have the matters investigated by Maurice Willett, then York County Sheriff. The document, however, was returned, marked as unclaimed, returned to sender. On November 20th, 2014, Donald Lehoux' second trial was scheduled again with Justice Fritzsche. Fritzsche, however, was pulled from the case and the trial was postponed. On December 1, 2014, Donald Lehoux filed a writ of error for appeal in his first case. That included prematurely a writ of error document This document was not considered by the court, but it could have made them aware of my early formed arguments intended for the appeal. It was on December 20th, 2014, when a case of eggs mysteriously appeared in the walk-in cooler of the Cockpit Cafe. Here are some other facts to link the players. Sometime in 2014, John L. Tuttle Jr. left the Maine Senate. On January 5th, 2016, he was sworn into the Sanford City Council. In the Sanford City Council meeting minutes for January 19, 2016, it says he, quote, attended the Airport Advisory Committee and commended Allison Rogers for her good work, unquote. Having a position on this committee as city councilor gave him the ability to affect policy that could ultimately influence the affairs of the Cockpit Cafe where I was employed. From this position, he would have learned that the lease for the Cockpit Cafe was to expire at midnight on December 31st, 2017, and a public request for proposals would have had to have been issued. Another connection between the players was noticed when the Honorable John O'Neill Jr., Justice of the Maine Superior Court in Alfred, appointed Attorney Thomas J. Connolly of Portland, Maine, on April 14, 2015, to handle Donald Lehoux' case, saying, quote, in your other case, I'm going to appoint Attorney Tom Connolly to represent you. You can choose to use him or not to use him. I'm going to require that he be present during the course of any trial that you have to assist you. If you choose not to use him, and I'm putting you on notice that if you are convicted in the next case, and you represent to me that you have no intention of following the law, despite my respect for your military service, I will send you to jail, unquote. In fear for his safety, in May 2015, Donald Lehoux was given a 1-year probation and fines for 2 jury convictions. He also reported that while incarcerated, he was threatened by his court-appointed attorney that if he kept up his prior defense, he could be institutionalized and force medicated. Can you talk about what transpired while you were in jail on April 17th when you met Tom Connolly, the court-appointed lawyer?
Yes, after being convicted of the last trial, the judge says, I'm going to assign you a lawyer. You sound like you know what you're talking about, but I'm still going to assign you a lawyer. And I says, I object. And he says, I'm going to assign you a lawyer anyway. Well, I wound up in jail again, and Tom Connolly was the appointed attorney. And I told him that since I'm not able to feed myself in a manner that is of my choosing, that I liked being in jail. And Tom Connolly says, well, we will have you committed and force medicate you if you continue on this path.
Did they say they would put you somewhere?
Yeah, they said they would commit me in an institute up in Augusta pretty much, and I'm pretty sure he said Augusta, but he definitely said that they would force medicate me, and I says, even though I'm nonviolent? And then he pretty much changed his tone, and I brought up the fact that it's all part of barratry, and he changed his tone again and had as little to do with me as possible, and obviously I must have said something right because they filed all pending charges because they most probably realized that they are breaking the law. So
were there any witnesses?
There were no other witnesses because we were in a private room where the lawyers meet the charged sovereign people.
And he didn't give you any paperwork to that effect?
And he did not give me any paperwork to that effect.
That's your word against his?
Yeah, my word against his. But when somebody says, we're going to force medicate you, meaning me, I take that to heart because I don't do anything. No, I lean on my stick because I am in pain. I don't do aspirin, I'm not going to do drugs, and I don't drink. No, so if you're going to force medicate me, that goes against my personal beliefs.
So in May 2015, he left the United States until May 2016, when he returned to the United States and turned himself into the Sanford Police Department, who had a warrant for his arrest for not paying the court fines. The fines, of course, were disputed because both Superior Court justices lied in the course of the proceedings. That's offensive to true justice and cannot be permitted to stand unchallenged. Before returning home, and because of concerning email communications between Donald Lehoux and Thomas P. Connolly, Sanford Police Chief, I again became fearful for Donald Lehoux's safety. So, on March 7, 2016, I personally delivered my Private Attorney General's report on government-enforced common law barratry to Kathy, a person who works in the city clerk's office, and asked that it be delivered to Sanford Mayor Thomas P. Cody. I knew Kathy because I worked with her at Vichy Sprague Electric in Sanford before it closed. The package I delivered also included a USB digital storage device with the relevant PDF formatted files from the case. Still, however, no reply was received. On August 1, 2017, Cockpit Cafe received City of Sanford's request for proposals. This began a long process that led on December 19, 2017 to my making criminal allegations against City of Sanford. Because of this complaint, the City Council voted to extend the Cockpit Cafe lease for 1 year. In the final concerning linkage between the players, on July 27, 2018, Renee Bernier, owner of the Cockpit Cafe, while working at the Cockpit Cafe, spoke with former Maine State Representative Andrea Boland, who was with a friend. Boland asked how the recent renovations by City of Sanford was going. Bernier expressed her frustrations. After doing so, Boland gave her the name of a Portland, Maine attorney named Tom Connolly, saying he's a real fighter. Could this be the same court-appointed attorney who Donald Lehoux claims threatened him with forced medication and institutionalization for seeking the truth about the law? I fear that there is an unhealthy conspiratorial linkage between the players. I believe it's further borne out in City of Sanford's lease with the Cockpit Cafe that refuses jury trials and only permits resolution through the Alfred Superior Court. That's the Justice Files.
Justice Files, the Justice Files, the Justice Files, the Justice Files. You got no damn right. The Justice Files.